Hello class. Today we will be learning about the two mechanisms of cell transport, diffusion and osmosis.
Mr. Biersack?
You.
Why are we going to have to learn this? I can go my whole life without knowing this, and I will still be got that message.
Because diffusion is how we get air into our lungs, and because osmosis is how plants grow, and they are the two most powerful processes on the planet.
Okay, guys.
And besides, chicks dig it.
Cell transport. The way a molecule moves in or out of a cell. There are two types of cell transport, active and passive. Active transport. The transport of a substance across a cell membrane against the concentration gradient requires an expenditure of energy. Passive transport. The transport of a substance across a cell membrane by diffusion. Expenditure of energy is not required.
Solvent. A compound that dissolves something. Example, water. Solute. Something that gets dissolved in a solvent. Example, salt. Concentration. The measure of the number of molecules in a given volume.
Gradient. A difference in potential. Molecules flow down the gradient. Semi-permeable membrane. Something that lets certain molecules pass through it, but blocks other types of molecules. Example, a plant cell wall.
Diffusion. The spreading of molecules from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration.
Osmosis. A one-way diffusion of molecules through a semi-permeable membrane due to a concentration gradient. Osmosis continues until the concentration on both sides of the semi-permeable membrane is at equilibrium. There is no more gradient.
I'll never be able to learn all this stuff for the test tomorrow. Mr. Biersack says that osmosis is one of the most powerful processes of life. Maybe this will work. I'll just put the textbook on my head and let all the knowledge seep into my mind while asleep.
Hello class. Today you'll be getting back your test on diffusion and osmosis.
Yes!
Here's your test, James.
Oh man, Z minus. Maybe next time I should really find out what diffusion and osmosis mean.
Diffusion is the process when molecules spread out from a location of high concentration to an area of low concentration. This difference in concentration is called a gradient. Diffusion is a form of passive cell transport. Passive means the process does not require energy for it to happen naturally. If only getting a girlfriend was a passive process.
Focus, James!
Sorry, Mr. B. Now down at the very small scale of biological cells, there is often a permeable membrane that allows certain molecules to flow in and out of a cell. Now we will witness diffusion in action. The middle bar represents a permeable membrane that allows these molecules to pass. It is actually just a bunch of cheap Legos, but you get the point. We now introduce a small concentration of molecules. In this experiment, we will represent molecules with marbles because Mr. Biersack is too cheap to pay for real equipment.
James, I have an axe here with your name on it.
Sorry, Mr. B. Now, diffusion is sensitive to temperature, so the higher the temperature, the higher the rate of diffusion. And because temperature is a measurement of the movement of molecules, we can simulate heating by spinning the setup, thereby making the molecules move faster.
Notice the molecules start to spread out from their initial location. Over time, molecules start to pass through a membrane after a series of random collisions with other molecules. It's like a bunch of teenage drivers trying to get out of the mall at the same time. Ultimately, there will be an equal concentration of molecules everywhere in the setup. Hence, the marbles have effectively demonstrated diffusion. Now, interestingly enough, if we stop moving the setup, the molecules show an unexpected desire to shift to one side of the box. This pathetic effect is due to nothing more than the really cheesy kitchen table my parents own that has one side lower than the other. We are doing this experiment on the kitchen table. I've tried to tell them since I was 3 that my peas always magically rolled away from my plate, and it wasn't me trying to hide my vegetables. But no! They wouldn't believe me! They would yell all the time! I grew up hating peas. Now I hate marbles too. And kids, like James.
Mr. B, can you put the axe down?
Anyway, now we can see what gravity does to marbles rolling around on an uneven table. However, let's pretend that didn't happen and just remember the mechanics of diffusion. Diffusion is a passive process, following a concentration gradient with molecules passing through a permeable membrane until equilibrium is reached. Are you following this, James?
Sorry. I was still on the girlfriend thing.
Well, the easiest way to learn about osmosis is to study a real-world example. Here, we have a squad of animal space snipers trying to evade capture.
Mr. Biersack, I don't think that is appropriate.
James, do I need to get the axe?
No, it's okay, not the axe.
Anyway, this alliance of animal space snipers is being hotly pursued by the evil horde of the big hairless man balls.
Whoa. That is not appropriate either.
James, they are big, they are round, they are hairless, and they are pretending to be men.
Mr. Biersack, you can put the axe down now.
Anyway, let's listen on to their hair-raising escape.
Oh no, I'll never make it through their shield.
I smell bacon.
We can make it. Jump through. Yeah.
Follow them through the barrier. I don't get it. How did they make it through? Because the smaller animals pass through a semi-permeable membrane. The holes were small enough for the ASS members, but too small for the BHMB. In the real world, the holes are the size of molecules, so it allows some chemical compounds to slip through, while others are blocked.
Diffusion is the movement of the solute, and osmosis is the movement of the solvent. True or false? False. Osmosis is a form of diffusion. Both describe the movement of the solute.
What killed the plant? A. Salt. B. Excess water. C. Lack of sunlight. D. Lack of water. D. Lack of water. Too much water left the plant due to the higher concentration gradient of water inside the plant.
A barrier that has holes is a semi-permeable membrane for all compounds. True or false? False. Not all compounds can fit through a semi-permeable membrane.
A. Solute is A. A plant. B. Something that dissolves. C. Something that gets dissolved. Or D. Water. C. Something that gets dissolved. The solvent dissolves the solute.
A gradient is a difference in potential. True or false? True. A concentration gradient is when one side of the semi-permeable membrane has a higher concentration of either solvent or solute than the other half of the membrane. Diffusion is a form of active cell transport. True or false? False. Diffusion is a form of passive cell transport since it requires no energy to happen naturally. Temperature is a measurement of the rate of osmosis. True or false? False. Temperature is a measure of the average kinetic energy of molecules. Temperature can affect the rate of diffusion.
Oh, my sweet James, I just love a man who knows osmosis. Would you like to practice some diffusion with me?